I signed that prenup with tears in my eyes, telling myself I was protecting the man I loved from my so-called broke family while his mother watched with this smug little smile like she'd just closed the deal of the century. But 3 months later, the day my father's lawyer called about my inheritance, that smile vanished so fast it should have been caught on camera. Let me back up a second, because if you think this is just another gold digger story, you're about to be surprised. You ever realize your whole life can change in one afternoon just because of a piece of paper and a whole lot of assumptions? I'm Tiana, and this isn't the story I thought I'd be telling at 29, but here I am. If you want the truth, the real messy, occasionally hilarious, sometimes brutal truth about what happens when you find out the rich family you married into isn't half as rich as the one you came from. Stick around. Because love may be blind, but money has a way of making people see real clear, real fast. So 2 years ago, I was living what I thought was a simple life. 28, teaching third grade at Lincoln Elementary. My idea of success wasn't fancy cars or fancy last names. It was seeing a kid finally get multiplication or hearing a shy little voice read aloud for the first time. I honestly thought that was all the wealth I needed, you know. Then I met James, and yeah, you can roll your eyes. He was every Hallmark movie come to life except better looking, taller, and way funnier. We met at this no-frills coffee shop on 5th. Me hunched over a stack of spelling tests, red pen in hand. Him in a suit that probably cost more than my car insurance for the year, cracking up at his phone. Sorry, he grinned, catching my eye. My buddy just sent me the worst dad joke you'll ever hear. I didn't even want to laugh, but there he was. Easy charm, kind eyes, and a handshake that made you think he'd actually listen to your answer if he asked how your day was. That was James. Investment banker downtown, but not the kind who made you feel small for not knowing the difference between a stock and a bond. He wanted to know about my kids, my school, my favorite books growing up. For 6 months, we were inseparable. He'd show up with coffee after school, volunteer to hang up kid artwork on weekends, talk about plans like we were already a team. Then I met his parents. Their place looked like the set of a historical drama, marble crystal art I didn't even recognize, not a speck of dust or a magazine out of place. Patricia, his mother, was this retired judge who looked you up and down like she was searching for a verdict. His dad, William, quieter, but with that same polished air. Dinner was all, "So you're the teacher James has been talking about, and teaching must be so rewarding, spiritually. You ever hear someone make your entire career sound like a charity project?" Yeah, that. I could see the little sideways glances between them. Patricia's not-so-subtle digs about my modest background and how James has worked so hard to build his life. James tried to deflect, but you could tell he was used to this kind of dinner where microaggressions get passed off as just being practical. Still, I kept trying. I baked cookies, remembered birthdays, bit my tongue when Patricia asked if my people were all teachers too. I told myself love would be enough to win them over. And then James proposed right there in the park, where we'd had our first date ring so beautiful, I honestly thought I was dreaming. I cried, he cried, the birds probably cried. For a hot second, I was convinced I'd made it into a fairy tale. We went to tell his parents, and no surprise here, Patricia's first words were, "Well, I suppose we'll need to discuss a prenup." James looked like he wanted to disappear, but he didn't say no. He just squeezed my hand and said, "Let's just make Mom happy, okay?" That night, Patricia called me herself. "Tiana, dear, I hope you understand. This isn't personal. It's just, with your situation, we need to protect what James has worked for." My situation? Huh? That was code for "you're black. You grew up working class and you're not from our world." The prenup was brutal. If we divorced, 2 years of minimal alimony, no claim to his assets, no matter how long we stayed married. And if I ever embarrassed the family, I'd get nothing at all. James just winced like he had a pebble in his shoe but never spoke up. "It's just paperwork," he whispered. "It doesn't mean anything." But you know what? It meant everything. I signed. with tears running down my face, hands shaking, while Patricia watched with that victory smile like I just confirmed every bad thing she believed about me. Why did I do it? Because I loved him and I needed to prove maybe to myself more than anyone that I wasn't some opportunist. Yeah, I wanted them to see I was more than what they thought. 3 months later, my dad died massive heart attack at work. That man raised me by himself since I was 5. I thought he was just an office guy. Steady job, steady life, never missed a recital or a parent conference. The hospital days were a blur. James was by my side, brought coffee, did all the right things. Dad held my hand before he died and told me, "Go to the bank, Tiana. Safety deposit box. Everything you need is there." After the funeral, I found myself standing inside an old marble bank, clutching a key, trying not to fall apart. I opened the safety deposit box, and for a second I thought I had the wrong one. Documents, news clippings, bank statements, stock certificates, photos of my dad shaking hands with people from Forbes covers. Turns out my humble father sold his tech startup for $2.8 billion in the 90s, then spent his life living like a regular guy, giving away millions behind the scenes, never saying a word. In his letter, he wrote, "I wanted you to grow up knowing your worth had nothing to do with money. Now you're ready. Use this for good baby girl." Mr. Thompson, his lawyer, told me straight after all the donations and taxes I was inheriting a little over $2 billion. $2 billion. I just sat there in that bank crying and laughing all at once, thinking about that prenup locked in James's family safe. Patricia's smug little smirk, all those dinners where I felt lucky just to be in the room. That night I told James everything about the money, about my father, about the life he never knew I had. He was shocked. Then he was hurt, asked why I didn't tell him sooner, why I let his mother walk all over me. I told him I needed to know who you really were when you thought I had nothing. At the next family dinner, I let it slip that I'd be meeting with financial advisors, handling some family business. Patricia patted my hand and said, "That's nice, dear. I'm sure it's wonderful to have a little something put aside." So I pulled out the bank statements, let them take a look. You could have heard a pin drop. Patricia's face went sheet white. William started coughing. James just stared. "There must be a mistake," Patricia stuttered. "No mistake," I said. "My dad was Robert Johnson, founder of Secure Flow Technologies." Suddenly, everyone was my biggest fan. You ever watch people flip a switch so fast it makes your head spin? Patricia started singing my praises. William wanted to talk business. James's sister texted about brunch. But James, he looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. All he could say was, "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked him. "Would it have mattered? Would you have treated me any different? Would your mother have?" He couldn't answer. The relationship dragged on for a month after that, but we both knew it was done. He couldn't stand that I didn't need him, that I could walk away, richer than his whole family combined. Patricia tried to win me back invites to charity events, family dinners, all that. But it was over. The man I loved wouldn't have let me sign that prenup, wouldn't have let his mother treat me like a project. I gave the ring back and kept the prenup, not out of spite, but to remind myself, never let anyone decide your value for you. A year later, I started a foundation in my dad's name, building schools, giving scholarships, changing lives. And guess what I'm seeing? Someone new. Met him at the grocery store. He had no clue about the money, just said he liked my laugh. He's a social worker, makes a modest living, but he'd fight the world for me if I needed it. My dad was right. Real wealth isn't about what's in your bank account. It's about knowing your worth before anyone else tries to price it out. Patricia's prenup was supposed to protect her son from me. Instead, it saved me from a family that would never see my value. Sometimes the best gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are. That piece of paper taught me more about love, pride, and self-worth than any degree or job ever could. So let's stir the pot. Have you ever been judged for your background, for where you came from, or what people think you have? Drop a comment. I want to hear your side. And if you know someone who needs this reminder, share it. because sometimes the story you keep quiet is the one that can set you free.
Xin chào các bạn, mình là Trinh, mình phụ trách viết content. Trên đây là những công việc của mình, là mình lên mạng xã hội tìm hiểu những video.
Vamos supor, você falou negócio sério.
It is cold, yeah.
Next one? Alright. Thank you, man. Hey, if you guys have any trouble, let somebody know.